The Cleveland Browns might have just gotten some fantastic news because Deion Sanders has a very strong interest in the Raiders head coaching gig. Now, what does that have to do with the Browns? Well, I'll tell you what has to do with the Browns. There is a 100% chance that if Deion gets the Raiders head coaching job, which the Patriots just hired Mike Vrabel this morning, and that was someone the Raiders were looking at, so cross Vrabel off the Raiders wish list. If they opt to go with the Deion Sanders route, there is a 100% chance that Deion is going to trade up for his son, Shedeur Sanders. And if that's the case, the first team he's probably going to call is the Cleveland Browns. The early buzz is the Titans like Cam Ward. Now, they fired their GM. The next GM may like Shedeur over Cam Ward, but the general consensus is most people have Ward going ahead of Shedeur. So then the Raiders, looking at the Browns' number 2 pick, would be the most likely destination, the most likely option for a trade up. And in my opinion, this is an absolute home run for Cleveland. If you can get Deion Sanders trying to trade up for Shedeur, you have all the leverage because you know Deion is going to do whatever it takes to make sure he is able to draft his son. And that might sound a bit dysfunctional, but remember, we are talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. No franchise has gone through more head coaches, I think, after the Browns or the Raiders. I don't have exact count, but those two teams in the last 10, 15 seasons. Dysfunctional franchises do dysfunctional things. And this would be dysfunctional, but it would be par for the course for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, what could a trade up look like? I mean, we have some blueprint to go off of. The Trey Lance trade when the 49ers gave up 3 first-round draft picks for the third overall draft pick. Now, that was going from 12 to 3. This is going from 6 to 2. So it's not going to be as steep as this cost right here. Maybe something like this, where the Eagles, remember back in 2016, jumped up with the Browns. Now, that was to go all the way up and get the second pick overall, like this year, from the 8th spot. So again, this is not as big of a jump going from 6 to 2 versus 8 to 2 or 12 to 3, but it just gives you a rough idea as to what the Browns could get in compensation for moving back from 2 to 6. This is my absolute dream scenario. The Browns have not had a first-round pick since they took Greg Newsome 26 overall in 2021. In my belief, it is the best for the Browns to try and get some more draft capital to make up for that stretch of not having a first-round draft pick. I mean, everyone is talking about Deshaun Watson right now and how it's an awful trade and an awful contract, and they're not wrong. But what I think they are wrong about is saying this might have set the Browns back decade. That's a big, not decades, but this might set the Browns back years. If you can yield a bunch of future first and some second-round draft picks, you have essentially wiped away all the capital you gave up for Deshaun Watson, and you are back at square one. So I'm in the belief of try and trade back, try and make up for all the years without a first-round draft pick, only 1 second-round draft pick in the last 3 years, get some more draft capital. This is not a loaded prospect draft class. I think we're going to look back at this draft in 5 years or so. We have a pretty good idea as to who's good and who's not, and realize there just weren't a lot of overall great prospects. The guys that are going to go top 5 in this draft in other drafts would probably go towards 10. And the guys that are going to go top 10 in this draft class in other drafts would probably go towards 15 to 16 to 17 range. So I'm all for trying to acquire as much draft capital as possible and then make your move for the future quarterback of the Browns in 2026. I know everyone wants the quarterback of the future right now, but have some patience. Don't just take a quarterback because you want a new quarterback. Make sure you're taking the right quarterback. Value the second overall draft pick more, where you don't just write a quarterback's name in because you want a brand new quarterback. What good is that if next year you're picking a new quarterback because this one didn't work out, and now you've essentially gone 4 straight years, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, with no first-round draft pick to show for on the field? That is not going to make life any easier for the first-round draft pick you have next year, which could be another quarterback. Or if you're worried about, well, if you sign a bridge quarterback and they play too well, you might not be able to move up for a quarterback, or might not be able to, suck enough for a quarterback. If you get enough draft capital from moving back this year, you could bundle that all together in 2026 and trade up. So please try and just, if you're on the fence of take a quarterback no matter what, just think it through a little bit of you should want to draft a prospect, not draft a position, right? You can draft a position in round 5. You're like, we need a corner. Well, take the best corner available. In round 1 and 2 overall, I'm not drafting positions. I'm drafting players. And I don't think that the quarterback player, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, is worthy of the second overall draft pick for Cleveland. There are so many other guys that I like way more as prospects that I think would actually be contributors and great influential players on this team. So let me know, do you want to trade back? If the Raiders hire Deion Sanders, he is going to make sure that Shedeur is on his team. It's the only reason why I think he would jump from college to the NFL. In fact, I think he said that just like the other day, that the only way he'd go to the NFL is if it means he can coach his son or sons. But I don't think he cares about Shiloh as much as Shedeur. So let me know, would you trade back? I would type Y for yes in a heartbeat. Give me your thoughts down below in the comment section. Before we get any further in today's show, I do have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Fume. Have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits led by the sponsor of today's video, Fume. If vapor was compared to sticky soda, Fume cores are close to herbal teas. Fume has lots of delicious flavors to choose from, like crisp mint and orange vanilla. Fume's design is also about more than just a flavor. It's an awesome fidget tool with magnets and clicks that help calm anxiety. Fume has already helped over 300,000 people build better habits. Try Fume today, and if you order the Journey Pack now using my code CHATSPORTS, you'll get a free Fume topper, an awesome accessory to level up your experience. Go to tryfume.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on screen. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's episode. Check out Fume today if you are trying to ditch a bad habit. Thanks so much to Fume for sponsoring today's episode. Once again, it's an award-winning flavored air device that helps fill the void that ditching a bad habit can leave. Let's talk more about the Browns draft in general. They've got 9 picks coming up, as I count them, in 2025. And I would love to see them add a couple of more, because this is not a quality type draft when it comes to prospects. And I know that's kind of a rain cloud, and I also know that it's just an opinion, and when it comes to the draft, it's a crapshoot, and no one should tell you anything with absolute certainty when it comes to a certain prospect or anything like that. But it is my belief that this is a draft class where it's not like that 2018 draft class where you can look back at round 1 and see, wow, every single top 10 pick went on to have a really strong career. I'd rather kind of spread my chips around a little bit more for this class. Plus, I'd love to acquire more draft picks for 2026, where the Browns can kind of target the quarterback position head on with, I think, some better prospects coming down the pipeline next year, since the NFL always seems to have this ebbs and flows of really good quarterback class, not so good, really good, not so good. Where are we in this roller coaster life cycle? We're at the not so good right now. It's going to pick up, right? Just like it picked up after the Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis draft class. So who could the Browns target? Let's say they move back from 2 to 6 with the Raiders. I don't believe Abdul Carter's going to be available anymore. I think he's going to be a top 5 draft pick. So what about Mason Graham? I toss and turn with this one. On one hand, I think he's a very good draft prospect. I think he's going to have a successful NFL career. I could see him having a career similar to like Cam Hayward. And that's great. And I should probably just stop talking right now and say, yes, let's go with Mason Graham. My hiccup is it's a little bit position-based, which I don't like because I'm a big draft best player available kind of mindset. But the last year in the draft, the Browns targeted defensive tackle with their first draft selection. My call, 52nd overall. Do you really want to invest your first 2 draft selections in 2 back-to-back drafts at defensive tackle? it's not as influential of a position group as other places are. And if you're picking top 10, you should try and find some more influential position groups, right? Receiver, tackle, corner, edge rusher, kind of cornerstone pieces, not interior defensive line, which you've already invested in last year with Mike Hall. So do you want to double invest in a not as important position group as other places with a top 10 draft pick? That's what I go back and forth on. But if Mason Graham goes on to have an incredible career, we're going to look back in 5 years and go, who the hell cares the Browns drafted Mike Hall the year before? Go get the surefire thing in your eyes. So that's why ultimately I'm kind of leaning towards if Mason Graham is who I think he's going to be, which is a Pro Bowl type player in the NFL, then don't overthink it. Go get him. That's one candidate. Another one is Ashton Jeanty. This one I'm not so warm on. I think Genty's going to have a great NFL career. So similar to Graham, maybe I should just shut up and go, if he's going to be good, why don't you draft him? Because we've seen plenty of good running backs go to teams, and the team's not good. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. I think drafting a running back in round 1 is perfectly acceptable as long as it's not the last box you're checking. The Browns have a lot of other priorities ahead of running back. So I'd rather see them go address those priorities in round 1 and then circle back to running back in round 2. But if you think Jeanty is going to be, I don't want to say the next Adrian Peterson, that's a really high bar, but, someone like a Nick Chubb, for example, you might look back and go, we'll figure out the rest of the problems later. Let's go get the future workhorse back of this team. And then the third candidate I want to bring up is Will Johnson. I'm just very high on him as a prospect. He didn't have a fantastic 2024 season, didn't really play a whole lot in 2024, which there could be some red flags surrounding why that was the case if it was truly all injury related. But I look back at that 2023 season and I just think about all the amazing plays he had in terms of being a lockdown corner and also having the ability to pick off the football and return it all the way. So I look at Will Johnson as a building block corner, and with Greg Newsome kind of going downhill, Martin Emerson having a bad year, Denzel Ward getting a little up there in the age column. He was drafted in 2018, battling all those concussions. Might not be a bad time to kind of go out there and target what could be the future CB1 for this team. So who is your number 1 draft target? Which name do you want to hear Roger Goodell read in April? For me, in a perfect world, I'd probably say Abdul Carter. But I don't think you can trade back and get Abdul Carter. It would probably involve a trade back and then a trade back up, which has been done before. I think the Cardinals did that when they traded back with the Texans, when the Texans went up and got C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. So it's not impossible, but I'd say Abdul Carter and a trade back. That's really the wet dream right there. All right, before we get on out of here, I do want to pick a card. So, Reed, which card do you want to go with?
Let's go with King of Hearts.
I'm going to say 3 of clubs. Queen of Hearts. Queen of Hearts. All right. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. Once more, thanks so much to Fume for sponsoring today's episode. Scan the QR code on screen and use code ChatSports to get your free Fume topper when you order your Journey Pack today.